What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to
history. The story of the C-Crosser's appearance is simple as hell. For the first time it was shown at the Geneva Motor Show in March 2007, but if you dig a little into the history of this car, you can find its mention earlier. Back in 2001, Citroen presented a concept car with all-wheel drive at the Frankfurt Motor Show. It was then called the C-Crosser. Jointly with the Japanese, the car was to be named C7, but in 2006 the French changed their mind and named the new crossover after the concept, C-Crosser. The C-Crosser, as I said, is nothing like the second-generation Outlander. To be quite precise, these cars have a common platform Mitsubishi GS, but, by and large, both C-Crosser and Peugeot 4007 are so similar to Outlander that it is fair to call them just clones of the Japanese car. Besides, they were also assembled in Japan at Mitsubishi plant. And initially the plan was different. Cars for Europe were planned to be produced at Mitsubishi plant in the Netherlands, which was built in the 1960s for the production of DAF. However, it did not work out, and these Frenchmen were built in Japan. But for the Russian market they were assembled at PSA plant in Kaluga. What was the C-Crosser? Quite a large crossover in which we were able to fit a third row of seats. This was its obvious advantage. The choice of seven-seater cars has always been rather scarce. 3 motors were offered, gasoline 2.0, 147 h. P and 2, 4 liters, 170 h.p. which went to the Frenchman from Mitsubishi Outlander, and French turbo diesel 2 liters, 156 h.p. Transmissions could be mechanical 5 or 6-speed, and with gasoline engines was combined variator F1 CJA on front-wheel drive cars or W1 CJA on all-wheel drive. All these are variants of the well-known transmission Jatco JF011. Suspensions are the most classic, front, McPherson, rear, multi-lever with a stabilizer bar. To be honest, the demand for this love child of the Japanese and French was not very great. In 2012, its production was stopped and its ideological successor was C4 Aircross, built on the French platform. Nevertheless, you can still see C-Crosser on the road, and you can also read what owners think about them. They think, strangely enough, very differently. And about the same thing. Let's start, perhaps, with corrosion. It is strange that many people say that C-Crosser does not rust at all. They say that there are chips, there are a lot of them, and paint, sometimes, peels off, usually from sandblasting from sills, but there is no rust. And at the same time, a very large number of owners state just the opposite. It rusts like a rusty car. For example, chrome often fails at the appearance of corrosion on the hood and on chrome parts in 6 months after purchase, and this is despite the fact that the car was practically not used in Moscow, i.e. the impact on the paintwork from all kinds of reagents was minimal. Yes, it happens, but rarely. But people complain about rust underneath much more often. The underbody was all red when it was 8 years old. None of my cars has ever had this. Literally in a month or 2 after purchase the flange of the muffler rotted off. In a year and a half the last can rotted completely. A hole the size of a fist in the top of the muffler. So the metal is frankly not very good. Claims of poor corrosion protection underneath are the rule rather than the exception. Besides, it's not just body metal that rots. There are even more interesting situations. I have almost all of the metal cables have broken off one by one. The owner is convinced that they have simply rotted away. And he is not alone. For some reason, the cables on many cars do indeed sometimes rust and tear quickly. Sometimes the problems with the paintwork became the subject of litigation. I sued for $200,000 plus full paint job in 6 months. Under warranty, of course. None of the dealers was in a hurry to eliminate paintwork defects. But through the court, it used to happen that they achieved this. It is a shame that some owners were so tormented by this problem that some of them declared, "I will never buy Citroen again." Well, C-Crosser is not quite Citroen, so don't put all the dogs on this brand. Especially as he's never built any of these crossovers himself. Of course, most buyers chose the C-Crosser not for its beautiful eyes and French-Japanese origin, but for its interior. Let me first give a few quotes that are full of raptures and then insert 5 kopecks of criticism. So, raves a good interior transformer. The seat is very comfortable for my height of 187. 1,500 kilometers of painful back withstands normally. The rear sofa moves separately forward backwards and the backrest inclination is adjustable. The space on the second row for legs is very much. You sit quite comfortably in the back. The driver's seat has a lot of adjustment functions. The dimensions in the cabin impressed. It is just what you need, 5 people without problems. And a little more about the trunk. The trunk is huge plus a folding door. There is no object that I transported in it and which would not fit in it, except for a 4-meter roll of linoleum that was placed on the rails. Citroen C-Crosser 2007-12. That seems all well and good, but no, I promised 5 pennies of criticism. Criticism is that the materials of this cabin are not of high quality. Especially it concerns plastic, which is easily scratched. If a lot of chaotically piled cargo was transported in the trunk of the C-Crosser, its plastic will not look the best. However, the interior plastic is not much better either. It looks cheap and scratches easily. It is a pity, but it is really difficult to sell C-Crosser. Most likely, the reason is that the one who likes Citroens will buy a Citroen, and the one who appreciates Japanese crossovers will buy an Outlander. And not everyone is ready to buy a Japanese in a French skin. That's why many regretfully write that the queue was not lined up at sale. Or so the price of the original cost of the car fell by 400 tons. PR. Now even to sell is not profitable. However, there is speculation that they will buy everything now. And the C-Crosser, too. Overall, the C-Crosser is rated as a reliable car. Nevertheless, anything can break down, and no car is immune to this trouble. Most often electrics fail in C-Crosser. Many people complain about failures in operation of window lifters, climate blocks and other. Not the most responsible electric components. There is, however, a variator, but about it a little later. The main thing here is that everything that can break can be easily repaired. That's what makes people happy, inexpensive and easy to maintain and repair. Besides, it often helps that C-Crosser is still Outlander, so nothing Japanese is alien to it. Spare parts are suitable from Mitsubishi. So they are always available, and non-original parts are notable for their affordability and good quality. And there were also many who refused Citroen dealer service, the cost of which often seemed excessive. The C-Crosser can be serviced anywhere, and those who know Mitsubishi are especially good at it. Now the ability to find any parts for this car looks particularly attractive. Inside C-Crosser is a typical Japanese. Its ergonomics is ambiguous, and those who are accustomed to European cars feel a little out of place in it. Let's look at what exactly is being berated here. There are a lot of bad decisions here, and I propose to give the floor to the owners who know what they are saying. Let's put aside the uninformative. The ergonomics of the interior is below the plinth and go to specifics. Ergonomics of controls of Japanese level. You reach for the seat control buttons and your hand does not fit between the door and the seat. The buttons of window lifters and mirror adjustment are not illuminated. If you need to adjust the mirrors in motion, even a little, you'll be too tired to find the levers by touch. The steering wheel isn't adjustable for reach. A little more, buttons of seat heating are located next to the seatbelt lock. Even knowing where they are and having looked before a trip specially on the road, simply could not find them. And the instrument backlight adjustment is next to the instrument dials themselves, and it's impossible to change something while driving, but sometimes you need to. And, at last, my favorite, the right wiper looms somewhere on centimeter above a border of a windshield. Not critical, but irritating. As in an eye of a Serena. Not a Serena, but a whole Serena. Can you imagine how inconvenient this solution is? Here again it will be love, slightly marred by some details. Namely, the disgusting light of standard halogen headlights on Japanese-built cars. But the regular xenon headlights are a delight for everyone. The regular xenon shines very well, a clear and even shelf visibility is at its best. The factory xenon shines well. The author of one of their reviews scolded his car for 3 pages, but at the end he couldn't resist and added, all this meaning All the bad things on 3 pages, author's note, outweighs the positive emotions from economy at 90 km per hour and good low beam, factory xenon. Probably, the light is really very good. By the way, if to speak about economy, it is not so good. Consumption with gasoline motors is not prohibitive, but not too low. In any case, it is more often specified in minuses of the car, and not in pluses. Those who bought the C-Crosser as an off-roader were sorely miscalculated. A large family crossover is not designed for kneading through impenetrable mud. Usually they say about it as follows: off-road qualities leave much to be desired, off-road abilities turned out to be very limited. In fact, the problem is the same. Hard locking and imitation locking are 2 different things, so you should think before you get on the C-Crosser in pits and ditches. I was disappointed in all-wheel drive. I, of course, understand that on an automatic you will not go into a scorcher, but also loud. 4x4 with locking of differentials, obviously not about this car. Yes, all 4 wheels are spinning correctly, but it is necessary to hang out one of them, and at once you wonder, and locking was not forgotten to put here. Or like this, there is a 4-wheel drive, but it is absolutely helpless. When driving to the Dacia, I caught a ditch with a wheel. As a result, it was diagonal, and I couldn't cope without help. Those who use all-wheel drive only to avoid getting stuck in winter in a snow-covered parking lot are satisfied with the off-road capabilities of this car. And those who expected the off-road capability of the old Nissan Patrol, of course, are a bit pissed off. I won't quote a lot of the same quotes here. I'll limit myself to one: all-wheel drive helps a lot when driving on slippery roads. Even at a speed of 110 you can drive confidently. In other words, the C-Crosser does benefit from all-wheel drive. I should add that many people like the fact that the C-Crosser's handling is closer to a passenger car than an SUV, which is actually logical. It is not Lancer or C5, of course, but it stands on the road very confidently. Besides, many people appreciate very highly the work of electronic assistance which do not give to go into a skid. That is why almost all owners are sure that they drive a very safe car, and since C-Crosser is usually bought for a family, this property is valued above all other advantages. Sorry, but I'm being tried again. If a car has a variator, it almost always gets the most of everything else. The exceptions are Audi and Subaru, but everyone else. Trouble. The main problem of variators is overheating. Strange as it may seem, there are almost no questions to the resource. These boxes have passed without repair and more than 200,000 kilometers. But it is easy to overheat them, and they are especially strict to long movement at high speed. It usually looks like this: the automatic transmission is constantly overheating, and I am informed about it by a message on the scoreboard with a request to reduce speed. And if I don't reduce speed, the car reduces it itself to 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. We read, the radiator that is installed is not coping. I had a box overheated in May. It happened once. At the service changed the oil and checked. Nothing was revealed. But they agree that cooling is not enough. Either to put additional at your own expense or demand from the manufacturer. At the moment my box does not heat up, but during long operation, during hard acceleration, a strong howling is heard. Now let's make it clear, on cars before 2011 there was a separate radiator of variator. The problem of overheating occurred, but quite rarely and mostly in those who drove for a long time over 150 km per hour. It is still a mystery to me where you can drive for a long time at such a speed, except for some toll highways, and, apparently, that is why there were very few complaints. But since 2011 they stopped putting the radiator in, and the latest cars have a conventional heat exchanger. And here it is already missing for almost everyone. Those lucky people, who managed to get deeply stuck and to bump for an hour, had to rebuild the box almost always. Even the radiator did not help. Variators do not tolerate such an attitude. It is difficult to say something unambiguous about diesels. There were very few of them, and even at the time of preparation of this material there were 59 gasoline C-Crosser and only 2 diesel ones on sale. But we can say unequivocally, gasoline Japanese motors, 2.0 liters, 2.4 liters, cause delight of car owners. Not dynamics, not consumption, but exactly resource. Here are some figures: mileage 141,000. There is nothing on the motor at all. 220,000, Crosser 2.4, the flight is normal, change the plugs one time. Mileage 215,000 kilometers. And if someone has to pick with electrics or occasionally repair the running gear, they do not write anything about motors at all. As if they do not break down at all. The chassis, by the way, is also strong enough, if not the tendency to sag the rear part because of weak springs, there would be minimum claims to it. But motors are still leaders in the number of positive reviews. Someone managed to drive in more than 500,000, never having been engaged in engine repair. For this C-Crosser is forgiven quite a large number of small breakdowns. They say that all this can be repaired somehow later, but the engine is another thing. All hope is only up to it. It will take you on vacation and on business trips all over the country. And it will always make it home too. Unless, of course, the variator dies on the way. In conclusion, the Citroen C-Crosser presents a compelling choice for those seeking a versatile and comfortable SUV with its spacious interior, distinctive design, and strong performance. However, potential buyers should also consider the drawbacks, such as its fuel efficiency and limited off-road capabilities. Ultimately, whether to buy or not to buy the C-Crosser depends on your individual needs and preferences. Weighing these 5 reasons carefully will help you make an informed decision that aligns with your lifestyle. Thank you for watching, and we hope this video has provided valuable insights into the Citroen C-Crosser.